So here's what I'm thinking about. Let's see if I can spit it out. Um, I'm in between trying to make myself make food. So, what I've got cooking in my brain right now, a lot of times I'll scribble shit out in these little books. And it is a ritual, it's a routine, it's magic at its finest, especially once you start incorporating other quote unquote sigils, so to speak. I do appreciate all numbers and letters. They're sigils, and when their powers combined, there's a balance, crudely speaking, in terms of light and frequency. Also appreciate that for the most part, I'm trying to reel it way back and not outright spoon feed you guys stuff. Um, if people gave a shit and they answered some of the test questions, what I would have taught people today has to do with the answer to what that little parable or little tale in the Bible actually has to do with in terms of the 153 fish. That's what I would have taught you guys today if somebody had answered the test questions. Just one of them. I'd like you to answer more of them. I'd like you to be invested and involved, but most people aren't. So back to point. And this has to do with why I keep saying you got to take notes. And what I'm dancing around has to do with the fact that you and I will obtain knowledge, but we're never going to have wisdom. And the spooky thing with that is if people merge with machine, they'll have wisdom, but they won't have knowledge anymore, so to speak. It's a crappy way to put it. In other words, in our corporeal, flesh prisons, it's very unlikely you can retain all of this and recall it, the drop of a dime. In terms of these rituals, compiling information, the research, by and large, whether you put it in a digital format, you're typing it up in a document, or you write it down, say, in a composition book, a composition notebook, a larger one. I mean, these are the little guys. You'd have more room to work with, but you're always going to hit the beginning or the end of that book. And in doing so, because this is a routine, it is a ritual, there's a breaking point, there's a separation, whether you realize this or not. You can carry the thought over, but it's still going to be altered in some way because you're using another book, and you should think of that. This will probably go over a lot of people's heads, even though it's pretty simple. There's more to this, of course, and what I'm rattling off, just like everything else I rattle off, you got to think about it, and if you do, I am telling you something, because you can apply this to other things in life, quite literally all things related to quote unquote reality. It's, and some of this I don't know how to put it into words. That's the other troubling aspect to it. So what I just reached in the most recent book that I've been rattling off things relates to one of those downloads or epiphanies, however I should look at it, a revelation. And in this case, it was something that was presented to me in a dream. So this also speaks to the fact that I've been cleaning up my body and I've been detoxing and going through the fasting and what have you. And the dreams suddenly have clarity again. And I'm a lucid dreamer again and a bunch of other really wild stuff. But I had this moment in a dream related to the function of light. That's one way I could put it. And it was spelled out for me, which blows me the fuck away. Say the very least, but I woke up and just knew how to do it. And that's how bizarre this shit is. You can think of Edgar Cayce, the dreaming or sleeping prophet, and other people who have done these things. And you can do these things too. And this speaks to some of the practices in terms of being able to tap into this and draw from it in order to pursue knowledge, to get things under your belt. But the point of this message is, if you're not taking notes, you're never going to retain it all. You're not going to be able to go back and see it for what it fucking is. And you'll see that, if you are taking notes, when you hit these end caps or these bookends. And you can go back and you can stitch them together, and in your mind, to a certain degree, you will, especially if you're taking notes. You'll start compiling something, and then you'll start to see it in terms of, what this is, how it works. But there's still going to be a drawback. You and I are fallible. We're flawed in a number of ways, and that's the beauty to this whole thing. It's also why it's temporary. I'm trying to think of how to put this in order to get the point across. In terms of seeking knowledge, in stark contrast, because the difficult part is a lot of people don't understand the difference between infinity and eternity. A lot of people don't understand the difference between knowledge and wisdom because they've never given it thought whatsoever. That's why you got kids that will babble about wisdom. It's unattainable in this suit. It's absolutely unattainable. Even if you have a photographic memory, etc., etc. A better way to appreciate that is, again, it's finite. You and I are finite. We have an expiration date. So we get a certain amount of time, and that's our track, and that's also the end of this little book again. It's punctuated. Womb to the tomb, cradle to the grave. And in between, there's that middle ground again. And you should apply that to all things in terms of reality too, because most people don't. They just talk about the tomb or they talk about the womb all fucking day. Because we're being polarized. You won't be able to gather all the information, in other words. And even if you were shown it, you wouldn't be able to process it because you got that limited amount of time. That's part of the point. This also touches on the fact that I've been trying to find people, again, which goes back to the test question and other stuff like that, who can think for themselves and reason things out. Because again, I can only do so much, and that's that. But if multiple people were doing this, you would see other things. You would be drawn to other things. Other things would come to you. You'd glean other things. And collectively, this is the round table that I hope to have, and it's been 10 years. And people don't want to have to think because it's hard. They don't want to put in the time and energy. They're also being conditioned, as I've said numerous times, to wait for the latest content, to kick back, rest on their laurels, and wait for somebody to spell it out for them so that they can thoughtlessly regurgitate it. And that's how our masters have duped us. That's how we've been taken in. That's why we've been misled, walked down the primrose path, however I should put it. We've all been had. And that's why those narratives our masters repeat work. Because people are lazy and fucking stupid. They could change it, but most people probably never will. And this is why we've been in our master's pocket since ancient Sumer, so to speak. And most people don't realize that, just like they don't realize the difference between knowledge and wisdom. And they probably never will, because they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. Another way to think of that is if somebody's not doing something for you, they're not making you laugh, or they're not performing chores for you, things you don't want to do. They're not giving you things. Most people like that you won't keep around otherwise. You won't. Now think of my approach online. If I kick your dick in the dirt, well, if you got a dick, so to speak, I speak to you, in a harsh tone, and I tell you to pull your head out of your ass, and that you probably don't have a goddamn clue what reflects reality because you're probably shopping around our master's narratives, and the chances are good that that's what's happening. Most people will tune out because you got a bunch of other fluff out there to repeat. You got a bunch of people that will tell you that your shit doesn't stink and that you're just a fucking shining star. And that's why that works. Because they're not tearing you down. They're not making you challenge yourself. And it works. This is a good time to reconsider, why would I take this other approach? Because I'm looking for people who can think for themselves. Who want to figure shit out. And I've spelled out things online numerous times for the naysayers, people who have their doubts. And you should still be skeptical, but based on what I've left in the public sphere, it would wow you if you think about it. You put in the time, but again, that would involve seeking knowledge, time and energy. What the fuck do I know?